too time-consuming. But if I wanted to be a best-selling author, then maybe I write for so many minutes. I do some interviews each day. When we brought out Chicken Soup for the Soul, we sent out 5 free books every day to people that could promote that book. One day we couldn't think of anyone to send it to. We sent it to the O.J. Simpson jury, and we gave them each a book. And about 5 days later, they're all walking into court carrying Chicken Soup for the Soul. And the cameras were all going, made national news. And so if you just do something every day toward that goal, there's something called the law of probabilities, which says the more things you try, the more likely one of them will work. It may not all work, but if you only try 2 things, the law of probabilities is not on your side. Try 100 things, one of them is likely to hit. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Mentioned we did that. And this book, which was rejected by, what? I told you, over 144 publishers, went on to sell 10 million copies in 41 languages because we did 5 things every day. We did not hit a bestseller list until 14 months after the book came out. 14 months. And most people would never sustain it that long. And it was kind of like the universe tests us, I think. How committed are you? How badly do you really want this? And if you go for it and do the rule of 5. Bill Bradley was a great basketball player, played for the Knicks. He was All-American at Princeton. In high school, he was an All-American. Every day, he'd find 5 spots on the basketball court, and he would have to shoot 15 in a row before he would go in. And sometimes he'd be out there 2 hours after everyone else had showered and gone home. He did that all through college, all through his professional career. What happens? He goes on, becomes NBA Hall of Famer, later senator from New Jersey, because he was willing to prepare. You have to be willing to do the work as well as dream the dream. The third thing says unleash the power of goal setting. So now we got this vision, things we want, but we have to get and turn them into objectives. And they have to become measurable in time and space. And the key words here are how much by when. I want a big house. Well, what's big? For some people, it's 4,000 square feet. For Bill Gates, it's 35,000 square feet. It's a real different definition of what big is. And by when do you want it? Well, I would like it by June 3rd, or 2007, or I want it by January 5th, 2010. Be very specific. And we said it may not show up exactly then, but the more specific you are, your brain will figure out what has to happen to get it to happen in that time frame. So here a person says, I'd like to increase my income. They're better off if they say, I will earn $200,000 by 5 p.m. December 31st. I'd like to spend more time with my husband. Well, I will take 3 long weekend vacations and 1 2-week vacation with my husband by November 30th at 5 p.m. Much more specific. Now the brain knows what to do, okay? I'd like to spend more time with my wife. I'll take ballroom dancing lessons with my wife for 12 weeks from September 21st to December 21st. As soon as we get specific, there's a part of your brain that starts calculating what to do. If you call a travel agent and say, I want to go on a trip, what's the first thing they ask you? Where do you want to go and when do you want to go there? And until you tell them that, you're stuck. And your brain works the exact same way, that little GPS system. I'm going to lose weight and get fit. Needs to be, I'll weigh 190 pounds or 140 pounds by a certain date. Make sense? Again, less than 10% of Americans do this. And guess what? 10% of Americans own 90% of America. And guess what? They're the same people because they're clear about what they want, a clear intention. All right. Next area is images. We now know that your body cannot tell the difference between a real event and an imagined event. Okay? If I were to have you close your eyes and imagine you were standing in the middle of a very small terrace on top of the tallest skyscraper in the world, you'd start to have queasy stomach and your hands would sweat because your body would really think it was there, even though you were safe in this room. Now, we can use that principle to our advantage to create success by using this power of visualization. And here's an example. One basketball team at Ohio State University, they took and they said, we want 1/3 of you, they all had equal foul shooting records, to not touch a basketball for 30 days. The other third, we want you to go out and practice basketball every day for a minimum of a half hour, preferably an hour, shooting foul shots for 30 days. And the third group, they said, we just want you to close your eyes and visualize shooting foul shots. Don't touch a basketball for 30 days. And guess what? First group, as you'd imagine, showed no improvement. Second group, practicing for 30 days, they get 24% improvement. And the third group that only did it in their mind got 23% improvement when they brought them back to the court and had them practice. So what happens here? I wish there would have been a fourth group, right? Practice and visualize. We'd have probably got up in the 30 or 40% improvement level. But what this tells us is simply by visualizing your goal is already completed, by seeing it nothing but net every time, the body starts to respond and adjust itself to create the result. So one of the great success techniques is people that are super successful are often called visionaries, and the reason is they close their eyes and they see the future. You create your future by envisioning it. Okay? And I recommend you do that every day at least twice, once in the morning when you get up and once before you go to bed. They did a study at NASA where they took astronauts and they had them wear concave lens goggles, which meant you see the world upside down. Imagine trying to negotiate relationship with me and I'm hanging from the ceiling and my right's my left. It'd be pretty complicated. These goggles had no peripheral vision and they had to wear them 24 hours a day for 30 days. What they were expecting was to see if they'd get nauseous, become hostile, lose sleep, to see how they'd handle disorientation in outer space. What they hadn't predicted was that about 25 to 30 days into it, every one of the astronauts, their brain flipped the image right side up again. They're still getting upside down input, but they created new neural pathways. And they came out of this, the psychologists came up with something they call a 30-day principle. And what the 30-day principle says is that if you want to change a behavior, change a habit, anything at all, you must, in fact, do it for 30 days. Uninterrupted, because they tried a subsequent experiment where they had half the astronauts take their goggles off on day 15, keep them off for one day, put them back on again. Took another 25 to 30 days before they flipped them right side up again. So we know that it's current, contiguous, everyday repetition. This is why most New Year's resolutions don't work. It's why most corporate change programs don't work. It's why most of our school programs don't work. There's not that 30-day uninterrupted. This is why basic training in the Marine Corps does work. Because they got you down there for 6 weeks, and they're not letting you out of their sights, and you're in a context that's held tight for that 6-week period. So if you want to visualize, your goal is already achieved, minimum of 30 days. That make sense? Okay, good. Let's see here. I'm going to skip over that real quick and get to this. Now, the reason this works, where your vision becomes real when you visualize what it is you want, is there's two things that go on in your brain. You have a vision of what you want. You have the current reality. They don't match. Okay? And what we want to do is purposely create that. It's what advertisers do. Imagine yourself in the new car. It's like the guy getting out of the Lexus we talked about earlier, getting in his old car. The vision of what's possible no longer matches the reality, and that creates a little dissonance or structural tension in the head, which we call motivation, which says, I want that. Until he had that, there was no motivation to do anything different. Any of you women ever experienced visiting a friend with a new kitchen, and then you come home to your old kitchen, and they've got all the new granite and the new appliances and everything's cool? Your kitchen was fine until then. So we want to purposely do that to your brain to motivate you. So you vision the thing you want, your goals and your vision. You hold that in your mind every day for about 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. If you have 10 goals, you can cycle through them. I put mine on 3x5 cards, read them, and I close my eyes, see the vision as if it's already accomplished, see the car I want, the program happening in Singapore that we're doing, whatever. Then I go to the next one. I just keep cycling through the cards until I go through all of them. What happens then is you get a perceptual shift. You start to see things in your environment that were always there that can help you never saw before. You get expanded creativity. You start noticing that the things that you want, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're in a shower, you start going, oh, that's how we can do it, that's how we can do it, that's how we can do it, that's how we can do it. And unfortunately, most people aren't having those kind of breakthrough ideas because they're not holding the vision. The third thing that happens is you have increased motivation. You'll find yourself doing things just out of nowhere, boom, you get up and you do something, like volunteering. Sometimes people do. That's not like me, but you just do it because you've been holding this that creates it. Now, what happens is that then creates the action that you need to have for the result to occur. Now, I want to show you how this perception shift occurs because this is magical. There's a sentence up here, and we're all going to read this on the count of 3 out loud, if you would. 1, 2, 3. Finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the experience of many years. Very good. Now, I'm going to put that back up, and we're going to time 10 seconds on my clock here. I want you to count the number of times the letter F appears. How many Fs are there in that sentence, okay? And when you do this, keep it to yourself. Don't say anything out loud, all right? So here we go. Okay. How many counted, by show of hands now, it's real important you participate. How many counted 3 Fs? Hold your hands up. We got about half the audience more. How many counted 4 Fs? About 5 people. How many counted 5 Fs? About the same amount, 7 maybe. How many counted 6 Fs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 people. Anyone count 7 Fs? All right. Now, were we all looking at the same sentence? Go like this. And yet some people saw 3 Fs, some people saw 4, some people saw 5, and some people saw 6. Let's look to see what the real objective reality is up there. There are 3 Fs that I'm sure most of you saw, correct? But there's also 3 more. There are 6 Fs in that sentence. Now, do you think that Bill Gates and Michael Dell and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas see